So first of all, everybody, welcome back. I have Dr. Jo-Elle Mogerman, who, as many of you know, is the leader and CEO and president of the Philadelphia Zoo. So Jo-Elle, welcome. I'm so happy you're here and can't wait to talk to you. And lucky us in Philadelphia and the region for having you leading one of, if not the best zoo in the world. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So if it's okay if I call you Jo-Elle
Go
because I
ahead.
consider you
Absolutely.
also a friend,
Yep. Yep.
is
Nope.
is
I'm Joelle.
but you are,
Yeah.
Dr. Mogerman. But before that, you come with many credentials, including not only your PhD, but the fact that you also ran the St. Louis Zoo. So again, I just love and this is my introduction of you. I love your emphasis on community and conservation, and of course, the animals and everything you're doing in your outreach is really everyone can see the impact you're making. The zoo is a great, if not one of the great cultural institutions, not only one of the greatest zoos, but a fabulous, important institution, as you now know, as its leader and how people feel about it. So again, I really appreciate your being here. And so I just wanted to, start off by saying, when was that time when you felt you needed to bet on yourself? When did you take that
Oh,
chance? Yeah.
oh my goodness. That's betting on myself has occurred probably since college, as
Wow.
early as college. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are you saying it's continuous
It's
or was it?
continuous. It's
Oh,
continuous at different points in my life where I had to bet on myself
okay.
and see where it took me. So far, so good. In the sense that
I'd say
actually,
so. Yeah.
it started in high school. I was a funny a nerd, a functional nerd. I'm still a functional nerd. I don't have any problem with that. But I would when it
Well, then you're making the word nerd cool. So,
yeah, yeah.
and by the way, you do have a great sense of humor. No pressure to be funny on our
Okay.
chat, but
Okay.
you, I've said that to you from day one, that
Yes.
your sense of
Yes.
humor.
Well,
But anyhow, so you were, what was you called a
in high school,
functional
right? In high
nerd,
school,
right?
I've always been an animal lover.
Uh-huh.
And in high school, in the way that teenagers are arrogant, my mother told me she could only afford for me to apply to 3 colleges. But I got to pick those 3 colleges. And I picked one because they had dogs, and I picked another because Prince lived in the Twin Cities.
Mhm.
And that was it. And, and so I was betting on meeting Prince, and I just love dogs. So I ended up at the school in the Twin Cities, McAllister College in
Mhm.
St. Paul, Minnesota. And I took my first psychology class. I knew I was either going to do psychology or biology. And I took my first psych class, and the professor just nailed me. She was like, "You can't write, you can't do any of this."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like,
So what'd you
okay.
do with that?
I said, okay, I'm just going to take that and prove you wrong. I'm not going to be a psychology major. I'm going to be a biology major. Like, you turned me off from psychology. And I went into biology.
Hmm.
Great move.
Okay.
Bet on myself, went into biology.
Awesome.
And then I could tell you another sort of betting on myself moment was I was working at Brookfield Zoo, where I've spent most of my career, and uh, I was I was on the verge of getting married. Had a very stable partner who is now my husband,
Hmm.
and I had a boss that I didn't like, and I was like, I'm going to bet on myself and leave this role that I was in and apply for an executive director or leadership level job. And I bet on myself again and got the job.
I love it.
And a couple of years into that job, my father got sick with dementia.
Mm.
And I was now engaged. And I was like, ooh, I don't know anything about being a wife, and my father was in a care facility that was in close to the border of Wisconsin. I was working in Northwest Indiana, and I said, I can't do this. It's more important for me to care for my family, which would now
Mm,
include this soon-to-be husband. And so I bet on myself again and said, you know what? I can't give the organization what it needs anymore, and I'm going to resign. And I didn't have another job.
good for you.
And I found another job like within a
For
week of resigning.
how soon was
A
that?
week,
A
1 week,
week?
a week. I got
All right.
another
All right.
job.
So for all of our listeners out
Yeah.
there, that doesn't normally happen to someone like Dr. Jo-Elle Mogerman. Of course it happens, but that is amazing. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, you got that job, but like if you didn't, it sounds like from what I'm hearing, you had the confidence to be like,
I'll figure it out.
I'll
I'll
figure it
figure it
out.
out.
I love that.
Again, I live my values. I have always lived my values.
Mm.
And my values include my family and making sure I am there to support them. And so I'll figure it out. I will just figure it out. So I ended up with a job. It was a great job. It was teaching at a community college because I love the idea of engaging all people in STEM and in science. So I was a biology professor at a community college, which is great because all I got to do was teach students. All I got to do is make people's eyes twinkle when it came to biology and anatomy in ways that they hadn't, because I had been an informal educator. So that was super fun and exciting.
And
And I
and
enjoyed
and
it.
I love that you talk about one of your values being your family. And again, not being apologetic about it. That can be a really important value, and sometimes car career professionals, men and women,
Mhm.
don't want to talk about how important that is in their lives. And I think I love that you clearly have a, like you're saying, a clear value system. And talk to us about like education and how that's played in your life and that move there. So, clearly, I think the zoo, I don't want to speak for you,
Yeah.
but the zoo is an important educational tool. And my sense is that's something you're emphasizing. But talk to us about that and how
Yeah.
it's played a role in your life.
Well, zoos are places of informal learning.
Mm.
And I came into the zoo and aquarium world over 25 years ago as an informal educator. And so, what informal education does, it has the benefit of not being structured and in the classroom and providing context for what formal education is teaching and doing. So, like if you're in physics, we provide physics problems like how do you keep the bears in where they should be and the people out, and how does that tree and angles? Like, I love that. That's the science nerd in me. Um, and so this notion of education and starting where people are is really important. And the Philadelphia Zoo in particular has done just a great job of being a really good nearest neighbor, and being a resource to the entire region. It is joyful every day I come into work, particularly now in the spring, seeing the tens of 10 to 20 school buses lined up on 34th Street and hearing the kids running around with their papers. Like, it's amazing. I was one of those kids. I didn't camp. I had a dog. I had some fish. My mother said she was too old by the time I came around to have a bunch of pets. So I was one of those kids. And so I really authentically understand the value of a field trip and why you may not see it at the field trip, but it may turn back around where you've inspired some kid to take a path that they may not have been exposed to otherwise. And that's the value of what the Philadelphia Zoo does. And I've always enjoyed making that happen.
I love that you said, that's fantastic that you said that it's joyful for you to come to work every day. Do you think that's your personality, or were you very careful about the jobs you chose, or what
Okay.
is it that, and is it all, so in other words, has it always been joyful, or is it
Yeah.
now in particular like, hey, I'm at the zoo and
I
I'm loving this?
you know, you will hear me talk a lot about my family, and my parents, and so my mother always had this saying that was, you know what? We're not wealthy. You're going to have to work for the rest of your life. My suggestion is you figure out what you enjoy.
Mm,
And I, as your parent, will give you space to figure that out because you're going to have to work the rest of your life. So you might as well enjoy it.
right.
And so I have just taken that to heart where I figure, you know what, I've gone to school, I have my PhD, that is of value. I have something to contribute, and it has to be a good fit. If it's not enjoyable, it doesn't mean it's not, there aren't hard days. You don't have to make tough decisions, but it needs the net effect needs to be joyful, and you have to be able to find the joy in what you do. Every day I come into the Philadelphia Zoo, depending on the parking lot and where I walk by, I say good morning to the animals,
Mm, I
and
love
it's
that.
that same joy,
Yeah,
I usually see the emus, and it's like, "Good morning, emus. Good morning, kangaroo." I don't know their names yet, but that really the idea of animals and the work we do really does give me joy because we do it for so many, and that's a real, um, privilege ultimately to get to a healthier planet, which is so important these days.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It's like we have to, as I always say, with our team, I don't want anyone ever to come to work with a sick feeling in their stomach.
Yeah.
And it's too easy to do that. And look, um, it's not the easy. Of course, you're going to have a sick feeling every once in a while. Something's going to go wrong, but um, I just love your attitude and your values and just how
Yeah,
you approach and how you took a bet on yourself a couple of times,
yeah.
and have kind of embraced every challenge. That's how I see it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thank you.
why if my mother also had a saying, you were born by yourself, you're gonna die by yourself, you might as well take care of yourself." And so that
And
yeah, that sort of value, I mean, I have never lived on the East Coast, I've never lived actually off of the Mississippi River is what it turns out, so this was a bet, but I felt like I had something. I think Philadelphia is super cool, it's a cool city, it's the nation's oldest zoo, um, and I
mhm.
felt like, wow, I do have something to contribute. I have something to give. I want to contribute to this community. And so pulling my family out of the Midwest, that was another bet. I think I'm doing pretty good overall. A year
I'd
and a
say
half in.
so. I was just gonna say, thank you for taking that bet. For those of us who live near the zoo, thank you for doing that and for everything you're doing to just make Philadelphia and the region a better place. We really appreciate you. So thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.